Hello everyone and welcome back to another Marvel Champions video. Today my local game store finally got in the Wasp expansion for Marvel Champions. I know it's been out for a while in Europe and Canada. I think it got released early there. I think here it got delayed like 2 weeks, or it was supposed to come out I think first week of January, got pushed back a week, and then got pushed back to today. So I believe it was pushed back twice. Everything's kind of delayed right now anyway. But Wasp deck is finally here. So what this includes, it's a 60 card hero pack. It includes one complete pre-built Wasp deck, 31 new cards that can be added to any hero deck, and the Nemesis set featuring the Lasanius Beetle. And there's the back of it right there. I'm going to go ahead and get it open, and then we're going to take a look at some of the cards. Just make sure that the Wasp card is in there. Because I remember when I got Ant-Man, Ant-Man was actually missing. I had to go back and get the deck replaced. Let's see what we have here. So there's that. We have our poster. So there's Wasp right there. Some information about the deck right there. I'm going to get this open. I'm going to play a quick game with it. Going to probably, again, test it against Rhino. That's kind of like my go-to deck to test these decks against. And then, maybe potentially play against some stronger villains at some point. And I really do want to try two-handed solo with Ant-Man. So there are cards in this deck and in Ant-Man's deck that'll synergize together. And it'd be kind of cool to see those in action. So let's see if we have our card here. So there is Wasp. Or there is the alter ego side, so Nadia Van Dyne. On the opposite side, we have Wasp, and just like Ant-Man, folds open and you have Giant Wasp. So I have to go probably get some special sleeves for this. I had to use two side-loading perfect fit sleeves on the Ant-Man one, like going on each side. So there is Wasp, and here is the rest of our cards here. So we have our hero cards, or cards from her set, and it looks like this deck is if I can find it, looks like a Justice deck. No, maybe it's not Justice. Maybe, let me see. Red, those are all. Looks like it's an aggression deck. So aggression Wasp, and then there's cards for each other deck as well. And I think this is, yep, so power of that. There's her Nemesis set with Beetle. And that's the end of the deck there. So we have her aggression cards. It includes a new Ant-Man as an ally. So you can still get the cards to synergize if you have this Ant-Man out. Or if you're playing the Ant-Man deck, there's another version of Wasp in that deck as well. Let me find the Nemesis set here. So first of all, there is her obligation, the Red Dreams card. So Red Dreams is her obligation. There is Mother's Orders. That is the card for Beetle. That's her plot card. Then we have Beetle herself. I think there we go. There's Beetle. Beetle, and then a few other just kind of like treacheries and things like that. So I'm going to switch the camera off. I'm going to get the deck sleeved up. I'm going to test it against Rhino. I'm going to come back. I'm going to let you know what I thought of the deck. I'm going to give you a report on how I did. I remember doing very well with the Ant-Man deck the first time I played it, and I'm thinking the same will happen here. Because both her and Ant-Man can hit for quite a lot. I do like with in her giant form, you can actually attack multiple targets. Like you can spread the damage around. So let's say her attack is 2. You can spread damage to 1 damage to one enemy, 1 damage to another enemy. It also looks like thwart is the same way, where you can remove. Let's say you're thwarting for 2, you can remove 1 point off the main scheme, 1 point off a side scheme, and so on. So that is that. We'll be right back. I'm going to let you know what I thought of the deck. I'm going to give you a report on how it went, and I'll be doing that in just a moment. Stay tuned for that. Alright, and we are back after playing our first game with the Wasp. We were victorious, but just barely. I only had 1 health left before I was able to defeat Rhino. Seems like a very, very cool deck. I noticed, at least in my game, I did a lot of damage kind of early on, and then kind of started to slow down a little bit later in the game. I was able to get some of my bigger cards back using her alter ego's ability. So basically, if you're playing on the Nadia Van Dyne side, you can basically get back 2 cards that have a mental resource on them. And like one of those cards that I got back a couple times was Pinpoint Strike, which it deals 7 damage to an enemy, and then if you're in tiny form, I think it gives it gives it like overkill, I think, or overcharge. I think it's overkill, but it gives it that ability. I didn't use it in tiny form. I mostly used it in giant form to basically just do a lot of damage, and I was able to get that card back on a couple occasions using Nadia Van Dyne's ability to basically shuffle 2 cards back into your deck. They have to have a mental resource to do that, but I believe Pinpoint Strike actually has that. I got Miles Morales out in one round. I actually had there's a support that gives your allies +1 attack. So I was able to have him attack for like 4 or 5 in one round. Because when he comes into play, you choose thwart or attack. You get +2 to that ability until the end of that round. So I was able to use him to do quite a bit of bursty damage as well. I got kind of lucky against the encounter deck. I did have um, my obligation trigger, so I did have to at one point, exhaust her and basically get rid of the card that way. I could have also discarded the cards in my hand that had mental resources on them, but I really wanted to play those on my next turn, so I didn't do that. I had chose to basically just flip to her alter ego side and exhaust her. I had a few minions show up that had guard, so I had to kind of deal with them before I was able to deal with Rhino. But there's definitely a lot of cards that do a good amount of thwart, a good amount of attack. There are cards like, for example, that you I forget what's called, but it's like a 3 cost card. Yeah, I think it's a universal card, so you can go into any aggression deck. But you do a bunch of damage to a minion, and any excess damage goes and becomes threat removed from a scheme. So I had the Rhino's scheme almost went off once. I had it up to like 6, I think. I was luckily able to kind of thwart and get rid of some of it, because I did have at one point I had her helmet, Wasp's helmet, on her, which gives her +1 to attack or +1 to thwart, depending on if she's in tiny or giant form. I think she's in giant form, she gets thwart, and she's in tiny form, she gets attack. But barely won. But I'm definitely going to go try again. I'm definitely going to at some point play with Ant-Man as well. I do a two-handed game with both Ant-Man and the Wasp and see how they synergize. Maybe like you have one of them in tiny form part of the game, the other in giant form, and then you basically switch sides and you have, let's say, Ant-Man's giant for the first few rounds, Wasp is tiny. You can then basically have Ant-Man go tiny and have Wasp go giant. So I'm definitely going to try that. Each deck does include um, a minion, or not a minion, an ally version of the opposite hero. So in the Ant-Man deck, you get a version of an ally Wasp card. That card actually did really well for me when I first tested out Ant-Man. And then in Wasp, you get an ally version of Ant-Man. You also do get another version of Wasp in this deck, just like with the Ant-Man deck. You got a Hank Pym version of Ant-Man. In this one, you get a Janet Van Dyne version of Wasp as well as an ally. So really liking the deck. I think it's really going to probably be better once it's being played um, with in conjunction with somebody playing Ant-Man or just doing a two-handed solo game. So if I do that, if I play a two-handed solo with those decks, I'll do a video, let you know how it went. But definitely Wasp is a lot of fun, does a lot of burst damage. Like I said, I got pretty lucky that I was able to make it through the encounter deck without having anything like, or having the card where the villain gets to scheme again, because I had that card pop up a couple times, but they were all for his boost. So I wasn't. He never actually used that card to actually like add additional threat. Because I did have Breaking and Taken was still out when the game was over, so I was drawing 2 encounter cards per round or per turn basically, and just hoping I didn't get the one that would basically either cause the villain to attack again or have the villain scheme again, depending on what side you're on and all that. But if you get the one that the villain schemes, luckily Rhino doesn't have a very good scheme. His scheme is 1, so he doesn't scheme very well. But he definitely attack. He has definitely his attack definitely goes up from 2 to 3 between rounds. But that's going to do it for this video discussing the deck for Wasp. It's out now in stores. If you're into the game, I would recommend checking it out. That's going to do it for again. That's going to do it for this video. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again for watching, and take care.